Yo, what's up, everybody? We're back. It's another Sunday morning, another week of football. We've got week four about to. Well, we had Thursday, but we have the rest of the games about to start for week four. We've got some injury updates. It seems like we have a little more good news than bad news this week. Um, so we're excited to share that. Looks like there's a couple other issues that we're still dealing with or trying to work around, but stick with us. Join us in chat. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you want notifications to let you know when we're going live. We'll be doing this Sunday mornings and Tuesday nights, giving updates. We've helped some guys work through some trades. That's been pretty fun. That might be my favorite part so far. Talking about injury updates, just anything, anything fantasy related. And, we love any questions or feedback to bounce off you guys. But we've got week four coming. We're looking at some injury updates. We're looking at some bigger names, unfortunately, that we've been dealing with. The obvious ones have been Christian McCaffrey. There's no big news on that. It looks like he's out again he's going to be out this week. But Dalvin Cook looks like he's only missing one game, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be in this week. It's really about confidence level with him because I read online that he's likely not fully healthy from that. But there's just speculation that this being the Browns being a tougher game, a game that they want to win, that they're going to play him. Maybe he's just right back to his complete full-time role, but it's possible that Madison gets a little more work today than we expect.
He's somebody that you have to start when he's playing. I owned Cook in our league last year, and there were a couple of games where that was a similar situation. I'll say that I feel like it's tough because his production's probably not going to be what you're hoping for, but it's just a situation. I think you agree, but that you're just riding him out like he's a guy you can't bench.
No, have to. That's that age-old saying in fantasy football of starting your studs. Like if Dalvin Cook's active, you're starting him. You can't bench that guy.
For sure. Um, we've got a lot less matchup proof players, I feel like, the last couple years. So that's interesting, but he's definitely one of them. I think that's a big reason why he's going like 2 overall in fantasy drafts.
Oh yeah,
Like, big deal.
stud.
It's weird because there's some guys though, like that were going in the first round that aren't matchup proof. I don't know. We'll move on from that, but we kind of pick on a couple of guys that were first rounders this year that it's like, in my opinion, aren't matchup proof. But okay, so Dalvin Cook, we're rolling with Dalvin Cook. We have some other quite a few running backs to provide updates on. Darrell Henderson, he's your guy, right?
He is my guy. He's my guy fantasy this year. Anyway,
He
uh,
is back.
Sean McVay expects Darrell Henderson to play in Week 4 against the Cardinals. Of course, you like that matchup. This is another one where we don't know for sure if he's 100%. He's likely not 100%. And Sonny Michel did finally get his work last week with Henderson absent from the game. So does that mean that now that is sort of Michel's introduction or transition into some sort of role permanently as the second back on this team? I don't know. I probably expect that. Probably expect Michelle to play a decent amount or some. Even if it's 50-50, I'm not going to feel nervous going into next week if I have Darrell Henderson, just because I think, like I said, I think it's possible he's not completely ready to go right now. He's just going to play. But again, that's another guy. Like I have him, I'm starting him. I'm starting Darrell Henderson because of the matchup and because that offense, that team, they're usually successful running the ball. And I don't know what your opinion's been on Henderson this year, but obviously before he got hurt, I thought he looked pretty sharp so far this year too.
Yeah, I've liked Darrell Henderson for the last couple of years even. I think he's a guy. He's one of a few guys that looks pretty good whenever he gets his opportunity, and I think we're learning more now that it's more about durability. Maybe I don't think that his
Yeah,
what he
for
brings to
sure.
the table is what's capping him at all. I think that
hmm
somewhere along the line, the coaching staff decided pretty early like we don't want to overuse this guy.
Yeah, and I've told you as someone that drafted Darrell Henderson, like I'm totally cool with him having 15 to 18 touches, and let's keep it there. And even if that means less production, if 50, 16 production points means less production throughout a season, but that means he can be on the field and stay healthy, I prefer that because I still think he can produce enough to at least be like a solid RB2.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they distribute that workload. It'll be interesting this first week here back for him and with Michelle getting more involved.
Oh, for sure. Michelle had some moments where he looked okay, but it didn't look like somebody. And maybe it's because he was newer to the team too in the playbook and all that. But
And a
like
tough matchup. That's the hardest thing for me.
with what we've seen from Michelle,
Well, no, with they had the Bucks last week, right? So
yeah,
that was hard to gauge because of that reason for me too. I mean, I've been someone who's been saying this whole time that I don't think Sony Michel really has it anymore. Anyway, like whatever version you thought you had with his prime when he was prime with New England, I don't think that's this guy. But I mean, could be wrong. I haven't seen enough of it. I haven't seen enough of him really to really know that for sure. I just think Darrell Henderson is a better player, so I'm expecting him to get used more if he's good.
yeah, no, I totally agree. I was getting at I don't think that what we saw from Sony Michelle looked like the Rams were super interested with what Michelle's bringing to the table either. Like it's a non-concern for me.
Right.
Um, the, yeah, I think Darrell Henderson's the dude. Hopefully he looks healthy and stays healthy because I like him for fantasy.
Yeah.
Um, Another one that's on the list here, Antonio Gibson. That's been a roller coaster ride with him so far,
A little
but
bit, huh?
like I do think with what he brings to the table as far as like big playability and also his involvement in the receiving game, like maybe you wish he had a little bit more, but I I just he's a guy that I feel like you're not benching either. It's like you invested in him pretty
Yep.
heavily, so at one point you felt pretty big on the player. He does have that ability where he can hit a big play against any defense. So like I don't know. I don't know that I expect him to have good games against bad defenses like on a regular basis, but just you just have to roll with it. He's got that chance to hit a big home run, and that I mean that's your fantasy day. One play, he can do that, and you're rolling with him.
Agree.
It's just
Good matchup this week, and yeah, Gibson's a solid running back. If you got to play him, he like you said, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. He has been banged up. It seems seemingly like the entire year. It seems like he's dealing with some sort of injury in practice every week. But he's been out there playing, and you're starting him.
for sure, for sure. We've got Josh Jacobs as a game time decision. Um, I'm out on that one. The I have him on my bench right now. I was really big on Josh Jacobs coming into the year. He takes a lot of tough sledding type of carries. Is how I would describe it. So hopefully this, they give him enough time to get healthy, and that even if we go through 3 weeks without Josh Jacobs, he comes back healthy and becomes someone we feel comfortable relying on going forward. But as far as this week goes, they're playing on Monday night, so the Raiders haven't really been up front with their updates on Josh Jacobs so far. Gruden's actually kind of steering the opposite way, saying that he's comfortable with Peyton Barber. The dude had a really nice game last week too, which might be part of that. But I'm finding alternatives for Josh Jacobs because you just don't want to be in a situation where you're like going into Monday night, you're kind of scrambling. I doubt that you'd be able to scoop up a Peyton Barber or a Kenyon Drake at this point anyway. So I'm finding alternatives and just taking what I can get. If Josh Jacobs ends up playing, then you're happy with him being on the field. I don't know that he would really have a huge game anyway. The Chargers defense has been pretty solid so far, but yeah, I'm definitely and maybe I mean there's room for other opinions, but I think we're finding alternatives for Josh Jacobs this week, mostly just due to the time that they play. Even the night game, like sometimes if there's a decent Sunday night game, you might hold out a little longer for an injury update, but you got Tampa Bay at New England, and I mean all those backs are going to be taken at this point anyway. It's not like there's like a decent piece that you could scoop up late.
No, I think the only way you could approach that is if you have Jacobs and Peyton Barber, because there is a chance that Jacobs doesn't play. With Gruden saying that they were going to run him around on the field on game day and see how he feels, and they've got him as questionable. So there's no like, it's not like they've committed to saying we expect him to play. Gruden saying he won't hesitate to play Peyton Barber again. Peyton Barber did have a good week last week, so I kind of believe him that he would do that. So the only situation where you can wait, I think, is if you have Peyton Barber and Josh Jacobs both, and then and if Jacobs is active at that point, you're kind of forced in your hand that you would have to play him, which I agree. It doesn't sound like that would be something I'd want to wait on if I could. But there's going to be people that don't have that choice, and hopefully you have Peyton Barber if that's the case, because that Monday night game makes it difficult to work around. Probably if you didn't have another option and you have to choose somebody that's playing today, I'm probably just picking whoever that other person is. And just like you said, hoping that Jacobs does play and looks good, so you can carry that over feeling good next week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's another option too, but the way that your roster is probably built right now, you probably have like a 50-50 chance of this even being like a option for you. But you could drop Jacobs down to your flex and give yourself an opportunity to run like a receiver or a tight end out there. Um, there,
Like a
I,
Jared Cook. I'm trying to think of somebody that would be like available in most leagues in that game.
you could run a Jared Cook. There might be an opportunity still for like a Renfro if you wanted to try to go. And this is like
Sure.
emergency. I'm only saying that because like maybe you're thinking Josh Jacobs is playing, or you really want to run him out there if he is healthy. I'm not on that boat. Like I'm avoiding him, but um, there's some other
Yeah.
options there. The problem with that is that you're committing to plugging in an alternative running back anyway if you're bumping Jacobs down. So
Right.
you're kind of making that decision earlier anyway, and then just hoping Jacobs plays. And I don't think this is a situation you want to do that.
I like the Renfro idea because he's probably available in a lot of leagues still, and he's likely to get you something. And if you have terrible running back options, like you're looking at all of them, you're like, dude, it's Josh Jacobs or bust for me. By the like at least in the flex, you swap him to the flex. Then I like a swap move for like a Renfro or something like that if you want to. Gives you some insurance.
Yeah, Renfro. Let me see. I was just gonna pull it up. Someone picked him up in our league, but I just wanted to see. Yeah, I mean he's rostered in 40% of leagues. That's not a terrible fallback plan. I mean emergencies are what they are. So you have a 60% chance of him being available in your league, and there's a chance that he has a decent game. Um,
Right.
and it looks
And if you're
like he's been catching
predicting
on a
game
little
script,
bit.
hmm if you're predicting game script, which is tough to do, but if the Chargers come out and they're lighting it up, passing the ball and are moving and scoring, then the Raiders are gonna have to try to do the same.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure. Um, Getting into well, I guess the last one. It just seems obvious. Sometimes I kind of skim past some of the ones that I think people might be talking about or might already be aware of. But we get a look at Chuba Hubbard as a starter this week, and we don't know how long that's going to last. But CMC's out. I think he's going to be out for a few more weeks. I'm pretty excited. Like this dude, um, I think has all the tools to fill in that CMC role. We don't know how he's going to handle that. Oh, what's up, Ant? Um, I don't know how he's going to handle the workload. It looks like he already left a few fantasy points on the table in his fill-in game. So we'll
hmm
see. It's going to be a big tell, but I think the volume's going to be there. If not, though, it's also exciting for guys like Robbie Anderson, um, Terrace Marshall. They made a tight end move too, so like there's some weapons in the passing game that could get an extra look without CMC on the field. So that's a pretty exciting matchup for fantasy purposes. If you're waiting on Robbie Anderson, I thought he was going to have a lot better year than he has so far. So kind of want to see
Right.
what happens.
I agree. We'll get to that in just a sec. But real quick in chat, what about Le'Veon Bell? I mean, he's activated. It sounds like he's activated for this game, but ah, it's hard to be excited about that. It's the backfield has been such a mess. We haven't been able to predict much of anything about it. I mean, even with Tyson Williams being productive and looking good on the field, and then this past week he doesn't even hardly play against the Lions. That just made no sense. Does that mean that Freeman is probably not going to be, what do they call that, a healthy scratch this week? We haven't heard that yet, but I assume that must be the person that would be cut from that group of three. Um, I mean, if you have an extra burner bench spot and you're hurting at running back and you just want to like throw a Le'Veon Bell on the back of your bench to kind of see what happens in the next couple weeks, you can totally do that if you want to. But like Dub and I play in a deep league and we play in a shallow league, a 10-team league, and that 10-team league nobody's picking up Le'Veon Bell. Probably won't be somebody that will be relevant more likely than not. But in like a 14-team league we're in, deep league, hard to find guys, in a situation like that where things are super thin on the waiver, yeah, sure, you can pick them up and just see kind of what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's weird the way that everything played out with like Freeman signing after Bell, right? And then Freeman got activated before Bell. I think all the arrows are pointing away from Le'Veon Bell. him being activated this week without an injury in front of him is surprising to me. I think the lack of involvement for the running backs last week was game script or game planning, which I thought was a really weird thing for them to do. I mean, I know that the Lions had a lot of injuries in the defensive backfield, so I understand they wanted to, to test those guys, but it just seemed like they went way overboard with just trying to chuck it deep.
Hmm.
So my only real thought that is a positive for Bell is that it seems like if the Ravens are activating him now, they might want to see what they have in him, so he might get a few extra carries. I don't think it's a team that you come into and you really need a lot of time to acclimate to their playbook. It seems pretty simple from the running back position. It's like we want you
Hmm.
to take the ball and go that way.
Yeah.
So like there's a chance that he gets a little bit of run, but for me it might be more that they just want to see what they have, because they signed so many running backs, and I don't know. I'm not interested. I agree with that. I think if he
If we
does get
thought
some
Bell
look, it's because
was
they want to see him.
if we thought Bell was like 90, 85, 90% of what he was, then I would be way more excited about this. But I just don't think I think he's over the hill. And that's I think probably Tyson Williams can, from what I've seen on the field, feel like he can be more productive than Le'Veon can. But that doesn't mean that the opportunities will work out that way. They could just like Le'Veon Bell and trust him more. Who knows? Who knows what they're thinking? I thought that they were committed to Tyson until what they showed last week. It was a really weird thing. So now I'm just like, my confidence is shot with all that. I've got Tyson Williams in a deep league. I'm playing him again this week. I don't like it. But I don't have much of a choice. And I'm just sort of hoping that what we've seen as far as how these guys have looked so far, that the Ravens are seeing that as well, and that they're going to continue to stick with Williams. But shit, man. For all I know, Le'Veon Bell could come in and get 8 carries today, get a like a Latavius Murray gimme touchdown, and then we're just all sitting here putting our hands up like, what is going on with this backfield?
Yeah, and it could really happen. We'll just have to wait and see. I mean, the Ravens backfield is like, and the Niners backfield both are like, okay, well, there is probably going to be a good opportunity for one of these guys when the dust settles, but like who is it going to be? And like as far as like today's fantasy football goes, like I'm I'm not trusting any of them more than I absolutely have to, but I also
Right.
still kind of like the idea of trying to pick a guy out of that group that you feel better about, while you have the chances, and just waiting for the dust to settle. I'm running out of hope for that, but
And
it
does
is
this not
there.
feel like the 49ers? Is this not the same thing?
It really is. It
It's
really
just a
is.
mess of running backs, and you want somebody because you know that the team can run the ball really well. And we're all just sitting here trying to, is it this guy this week? Oh no, it's this guy. Oh no, it's that guy.
Yeah.
And we're just sitting here like everybody's got all these players on their bench and nobody can start any of them.
Well, and the weirdest part about the Ravens backfield too is that like these four guys. I mean, they all kind of feel similar, right? Like it's not like they're. I mean, there's so like you're probably not going to be leaning on Latavius Murray to catch the ball as much, but like Bell can, Freeman can. I think Williams can do a little bit of everything. So it's like their skill set isn't really offering like established roles either. So that's going to make it a lot harder, I think, for the coaching staff or for fantasy owners to really pick a guy out of this group.
Right.
I hate
What a
it.
mess. We'll learn a little bit more again today.
Yeah. Um, I think that's about all
Oh,
we've got for
we were
running
talking about the
backs.
Panthers. We were talking about the Panthers though with Hubbard real quick.
Mhm.
I they've so it's kind of funny. We've been talking about Robbie Anderson a couple times over the past like week, and wondering if at some point is his role going to expand. It seems like it should expand. I mean, it wouldn't take much for it to, for one, but it also seems like this could be a situation where the Panthers are like, they want to maybe force the issue a little bit and get him more involved. Uh, Sam Darnold and him have been putting in extra time and working on things, but at the same time, Darnold also said that the coaching staff has said that there's not really anything that they feel like they need to change. So I don't know what that means. It almost sounds like the coaching staff are just going to continue to call the games that they're calling because they're winning and it's working. But that Darnold himself is feeling a little bit like, hey, we should get Robbie a few more looks. So that's kind of an interesting thing to pay attention to with the fact that CMC is not in, and how those targets are going to get distributed. We do expect Hubbard to get some of them, but just wouldn't expect him to get all of them that CMC would normally get. If he does, he's going to be a great fantasy option this week. But I would think at least a few of those are going to get distributed somewhere else. So that's just going to be a fun thing to just sort of watch and pay attention to.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So far, what we've seen, usually if you see like a quarterback and a receiver reunite, you're thinking like, okay, well, some chemistry is going to be a factor. But so far, it seems like Darnold with Robbie Anderson is putting Robbie Anderson back in his like Jets role, where it's like, well, we want you to take some, stretch plays, and we'll try to hit a home run once in a while, and that's not
Right.
where Robbie Anderson has gotten his value or piqued my interest the last year and a half.
Right. Henderson or Williams in a 12-team PPR. Do you have a preference there, Dub?
I mean, Baltimore's defense isn't what we've expected it to be, but I still say they're built to stop the run. Kind of scares me. I know that you're probably thinking Williams is going to get a little more run with Gordon being questionable, but
Right.
Baltimore's run defense, I think, is still really respectable. So, I mean, I already just don't like that matchup on the surface. I think Henderson's first game back, it might feel like there's a little bit of risk there too, but I like Henderson better.
I do too. I think I'm starting Henderson over Williams, kind of for the same reasons. It is intriguing with Melvin Gordon being a bit banged up that maybe Williams gets a little bit more work, but we don't know that for sure. That hasn't been the case at all so far this year, and I do like the Cardinals matchup more with Henderson than the Baltimore matchup. We don't know for sure how much Henderson is going to be sharing work with Michelle either, but we're not going to be able to know that. So we're going to pick Henderson in a vacuum there. Robert Woods or Cole Beasley in a 12-team PPR. Well, I think that you probably, in my opinion, you probably have to play Beasley just because Robert Woods hasn't even shown the ability to even provide you with much of a floor, let alone a ceiling. I expect that better days would still be ahead for Robert Woods. He might even be someone that if you could trade, you already have him, obviously, but I think he could be somebody in your league that you could potentially trade for super cheap. And at this point, I think everybody's just super frustrated with him. And there's still a world where that situation gets a lot better for Robert Woods and he becomes more involved in the offense, unless the dude's just like washed and we're seeing it in real time. But I can't buy into that right now. But Beasley's going to at least provide you with a floor, and he could also still even put out not just like a boring 8-point game, but he could have a nice game. It's probably who I'd have to play. What do you think, Deb?
I agree. I think Robert Woods is somebody that you're not going to get value for if you're the person trading him, and I think there's like I agree with the upside part too. Like you're benching Robert Woods this week for Cole Beasley, and you're stashing Woods to have him on your roster for the bounce
wait.
back.
Yeah.
Robert Woods could easily have the better game this week. I think I still kind of feel like it's inevitable, but we're far enough into the season now that you're rolling with Beasley. The dude's averaging 10 targets a game, through 3 weeks, and you're in a PPR league. So take Beasley this week. If Woods, has the better game this week, we're looking at it as a good thing. It's like, okay, slight bummer that, I didn't put the highest scoring player in my lineup, but, I took a safer pick this week, and I have a guy that put up a bunch of points still.
Yeah, it just feels like Robert Woods is in the realm of possibility where this is the week against the Cardinals where he turns things around and has a nice big game. But there's nothing that gives you any confidence in that right now, and at least Beasley's been out there and putting up something.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for the comments.
Woods probably has the highest ceiling like potential though out of those guys, right? Even like if you just took all that away, like I don't know. I'd have to be playing against a team in that situation where their roster is so much better than mine that I'm just throwing guys out there knowing they might give me 2 points, but they could give me 18.
Yeah,
That's the only time I'd be playing a Woods over Beasley right now.
For sure. There's definitely an argument to be made for taking that upside sometimes, even when it feels a little less likely. Pick 2, Sutton, Woods, Patrick, and Juju, full PPR.
So Juju is completely like he's not questionable or anything, right? He's good to go. He has been removed from the week 4 injury report.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no Chase Claypool. Deante Johnson is back in. But obviously you got Sutton and Patrick. I'm assuming that's Tim Patrick, and you're only gonna be able to play one of them. And we just talked about how Woods, we'd like to wait and see with Woods, think better days are ahead, but we're worried that he provides you with no floor, and that's kind of scary right now. So to me, I would probably want to go like Juju and Sutton.
I'm
What do you
leaning.
think?
I'm leaning the same way. The Claypool thing is probably the factor for me. I see a world if you don't have any expectations for Sutton or Patrick coming in, or you just don't feel like you're gravitating towards either one. I can see where maybe you're picking between those two, but I like Sutton. I think he's the guy that I'm going with from Denver, and then Claypool being out helps me with Juju too.
With Juju.
Those are four.
Yeah.
Those are four pretty good options, and they're gonna give
Mhm.
you some production. So, I don't.
Yeah, Tim Patrick's been like all reliable, like that guy that nobody's really super excited about, but he has been like if you started him every week, you'd be pretty happy with what you've got from him so far.
And
But
there's
we both know that Sutton is the better player, and we just tend to lean towards better players in our lineups more than anything.
and a little bit of avoiding starting guys from the same team. I think
Yeah, it's tough.
Sutton and Patrick could be a situation where you're more okay with it because I think Sutton seems to be getting the yards and Patrick is the touchdown guy. So I think there's room for both of those guys to put up some fantasy points. But essentially, what you'd be saying is like, okay, well Teddy Bridgewater has a cap. All quarterbacks do, and when you're picking guys from the same team, theoretically, you're guaranteeing that you're going to get some production, but you're also guaranteeing that you're not going to get all of the production. So like theoretically, Cortland Sutton could go out there and have like a 200-yard, 2-touchdown game. And I'm not saying I expect that, but what I'm saying is like if he does, then Tim Patrick's likely not doing anything. And that's kind of the theory is like don't cap yourself. So like you're
You can also only score one touchdown at a time. So
yeah,
when someone scores a touchdown on that team, you're either guaranteed to only get it on that drive or not at all when you're playing two people. You just cap your upside.
exactly. Do we think Josh Jacobs will have a good game if he's active? I'm finding other plans for Josh Jacobs. We touched on that a little bit. They're playing Monday night, and there's not enough clarity to feel comfortable waiting on that. If you've got some other options that you like that are playing later and you think they're going to come out with an update, sometime today, then I mean, you're probably safer waiting, but I wouldn't. I have Josh Jacobs on my bench right now. I don't care for it much, but what do you do if Josh Jacobs ends up having some late news or they wait until tomorrow afternoon and it's like, okay, well, Jacobs is out and you're kind of stuck there.
Or even if he becomes active and it's a situation from week one. Week one, he saved you because he got a couple touchdowns. But if he didn't get those 2 touchdowns, what did he have? Like 30, somewhere around 30 yards, and then came off the field several times. Like, what if he goes out and gets a few carries and comes back off the field again, and then they just put Peyton Barber in? You got 0.8 points with Josh Jacobs on a Monday, and you're screwed.
Yeah.
It sucks because we both really like Josh Jacobs as a player when he's right, when he's healthy. So it feels so wrong to sit that guy, but it's so risky this particular week. It's the whole, if you can pivot to a different option, that's what we both would agree to do this particular week. And honestly, those are times when like, I know it sucks when you have a guy have a good game on your bench, but again, like that's going to make you feel good going into next week. If Jacobs goes out and has a bad game and you put him on your bench, you'll be happy you didn't play him, but you're not going to feel any more confident going into next week. So, sometimes when those guys, if they happen to do have a decent game on your bench, you can at least feel good in knowing that, like, okay, I put that dude right back in my lineup next week and I feel confident in it.
Yep. Thanks, Bruce. We
appreciate that, Bruce.
that. It looks like we got Drake as well. So, I mean, yeah, that definitely puts you in a better position to wait. If you have another guy out there, it depends on who your alternatives are, but I'm still leaning towards like a decent alternative if you have somebody else on your bench. But the problem is if Josh Jacobs ends up playing, I mean, that's kind of what Josh was getting at earlier, was like, I think if Josh Jacobs plays it would limit Drake, right? But then also you're hoping that you're relying on Josh Jacobs' touchdowns. So like that's already kind of a toxic situation if he does play, and that would hurt both guys. So like, kind of depends on who else you have on your bench, but it's just not a situation that I'm loving this week. So I
If
like
you
that you
if you
have
really want to
Drake.
know, if you really want to know, Ant, um, maybe throw some of the names out there that you could replace Jacobs with if you've got Drake. Is a situation where you can put Jacobs in your flex and wait and play like a Renfro if you needed to, or is this one of those deals where you're going to be pot committed because you don't really have anybody else on your bench worth plugging in today?
Right.
Um, yeah. And
I'll
then what
throw a
time do we
name
start
out
the
there.
broadcast? Real quick, so Sundays, we stream Tuesdays and Sundays. So Tuesday evenings before waivers. And we usually get on here about 8:30 in the evening on Tuesday. That's Eastern. And then on Sundays, today we stream before all the games. And we usually try to get on here by about 10:30. Today it was 11. You can blame me for that one. Had to get my coffee in and my morning bathroom break. Okay. Don't
I
get
was a
mad at
part
me
of
for
that
that.
too.
But we started today at 11, but we Tuesday evenings around 8:30 Eastern and Sunday mornings around 10:30 Eastern.
Well, and the best way to know too, and it's as much for you guys as it is for us. But if you hit that sub button too and click that bell for the notifications, you'll get a notification on your phone when we go live too. So I mean that's I know like okay, sub to our channel, right? But like it's a good thing for you guys too because then you will get that pop up, be like, oh hey, those guys are on there talking about fantasy again. I want to watch that. So
If anything,
either
you come in here and just bullshit with us for a little bit before the game start.
exactly. But
You said you had a couple names. What were you gonna say?
well, just I mean there was one name that stuck out to me but also because I mean I think he's trending up, so I'm kind of interested in this. So like this is kind of where I'm putting the situation in my mind, I think, and I'm wondering if it's something that you're thinking the same thing, or if you have a different opinion. Like I want to hear it, but so I drafted Michael Carter Jr. and
Hmm.
he's been involved more early in the season than I've been expecting. Now when I'm looking at the situation, I mean, obviously, later in the season, like even as early as next week, you could be looking at Josh Jacobs and feeling really good about putting him in your lineup. But with the lack of clarity, with the late game, with Peyton Barber having a good game, maybe Jacobs isn't 100%, but they want to have him out there to some degree. I don't know. But anyway, there's a lot of things happening with that situation. Would you
Yeah.
feel as good or better about just committing to Michael Carter this week and like saying, okay, we'll wait and see what happens with the Raiders backfield? I guess it's just kind of a name that popped into my head that I was wondering like where exactly are we evaluating this backfield today?
Yeah. If it's that particular situation, I'm waiting on and playing Jacobs if I can.
Okay.
Um, that Jets, I think you and I both I agree with you. Surprised that Michael Carter has got as much work as he has this early, but the Jets are just an absolute disaster right now on offense, and they're still at the same time sharing a backfield. So like that's two strikes for me. Don't even need a third. You're done. I
It's
can't
fair.
play you.
No, it's fair. I
You're
mean,
just hoping that situation clears up.
exactly. That would be me investing in another step forward, which isn't guaranteed. It was just kind
Yeah.
of like, yeah, I think
That's
it's a
that.
good
What do
place
they call
to
those plays when you start guys like that and they actually hit? What do they call those types of plays in
like a
fantasy?
dart throw.
Well, yeah, but similar to that. But I'm thinking of a different thing. But that's like that. It's not a home run, but like the glory play. That's like the glory play.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
getting a
like the
little
one where
cute
you
with your
throw the guy.
lineup.
Yeah, but then if it happens to work, you sit back like, yeah, I knew that was gonna happen. Like that's why I started him. But no, yeah, I can't do that.
Definitely some interesting updates with the running backs. Definitely some things to think about this week. I think we've touched on all the significant running backs this week, right?
We could just mention a couple others real quick. Not really much worth mentioning. We did or expanding on. Jonathan Taylor's good to go, so he's clear.
Oh
Melvin
yeah, yeah.
Gordon. Melvin Gordon seems like he's going to be active. Um, Elijah Mitchell is not active, not playing. So Trey Sermon, We don't know. Kyle Juszczyk, maybe. Good luck guessing that. Hopefully, you have better options. Don't have to play one of those guys.
Trey
It looks like
Sermon, like this is if this isn't the last week, it's one of the last weeks that I'm waiting to really hold out hope for, right? Like Mitchell's out again. You know, it's another week closer to Jeff Wilson Jr. coming back. Like, I I know Sermon's young. They got him in the draft, at a decent spot. But like, how long are we waiting on Trey Sermon? Or how long? I don't know.
I don't know. Um, I have I have more patience than some people out there I know with guys on my bench. It always comes down to what you need at the end of the day. Like, especially if you're injured, injury riddled. If your team, if you're losing a bunch of these guys, you happen to have some bad luck this year with injuries, then I understand you got to cut guys and pick people up you can just play in your lineup. And then if you want to cut Trey Sermon, then that's fine. I'm personally a bad one to ask on that opinion because I felt pretty high on Sermon coming into the year. And of course, it was in a keeper league of ours, and their running backs are a premium, and you're just hoping to get lucky with some of these guys you draft. So, like, I reached on Trey Sermon this year in our draft in a keeper league just because of the situation that he got in with the Niners backfield and his talent, and thinking that could be a really good combination. Maybe something could work out. So for like me in particular, I'm not in a situation where I have to pick people up and play them right now because my team, for the most part, is fairly healthy. So I'm just holding until I can't anymore for now. But I also am a guy that drafted J.K. Dobbins pretty early in the draft last year. And I waited 8 weeks or something like that with him until I could actually start putting him in my lineup.
Which is
And it
easier
worked
to
out.
do when you have like some clear cut starters and you're not getting too
Right.
deep into your bench. Obviously, like injuries are gonna affect that, or maybe you missed on a couple picks. So like, if you
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. If you have some stability on your roster, you are afforded more time to wait. I think this is a big week though. I want to see him
It
put up.
is. It's another week, right? Another week of him being able to get in there and play, and
Yeah,
no
we need
excuses,
we
kind of.
need what 10 to 12 standard scoring, like 15 PPR to really like start feeling good about the situation.
The involvement level is going to be key. When they get near the goal line, is he going to be able to get a look? He did this past week, but is that going to stay the same? Is he going to get a? Does he get a little bit of design screens for him? Can he get a couple of those? Because the Niners have always been known to do that and used to do that, and I think I think Trey Sermon can excel at that. So I want to see the usage. Obviously the points at the end of the day statistically is all that's going to matters for fantasy, but I'm paying attention to how he's used today and how much he's sharing that backfield and who is it with. Is Juszczyk fucking out there getting as much work and as many carries as Sermon is again? Because if so, just how are you gonna feel when Mitchell comes back then?
Right, right.
Um,
Well, and it's a manageable matchup too with Seattle in San Francisco too. So I'm really hoping to see something out of Sermon this week. Otherwise, it's just gonna keep feeling weird.
right.
But you'd mentioned another. Well, you touched on a couple injury updates for the running backs. What was the one you mentioned before San Francisco?
I mentioned Melvin Gordon and Jonathon
Melvin
Taylor.
Gordon. Melvin
Hmm.
Gordon will be on the field. He's going to get some touches. A decent amount of his production this year has come on some chunk plays. From what I've noticed, I mean, he's had some consistency out there too, but they said he's got a rib injury. It seems like everyone has a rib injury right now. It's really
No
weird.
kidding.
But then they also said that he's got something going on with his lower body or a leg. So I'm gonna be a little cautious with Melvin Gordon, but at the same time, like he's got a chance to get the touchdowns. I don't love going up against Baltimore's defense anyway, but I don't know that I'm moving the needle too much. I guess I'm just saying like if you're looking at consistency versus upside, that maybe you take a knock on Melvin Gordon's ceiling today, just because he is dealing with a couple things that I think might limit the bigger plays.
Yeah, there's an easy narrative to paint with him coming in banged up with another running back on that team that Denver is also likes getting the ball and likes playing, and then the matchup. Like there's an easy narrative to pitch for why it would be a wait week with Melvin Gordon. But I think the advantage if you have Melvin Gordon is that you probably have other options already because you got Melvin Gordon pretty damn late in drafts this year. Like he was going pretty late. If you
Yeah.
drafted a Javonte Williams, you're in a position where you're probably playing him because you had to take him a little bit earlier in drafts. But with a Melvin Gordon, you probably got the advantage being able to wait.
Well, and it might
And
be worth.
so,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, that's about it. So I would just say, like, if you are in that position, then just go ahead and wait. I don't even know. I don't know how many people are even starting Melvin Gordon so far yet this season, to be honest.
It's
Because he
true.
was going so late, and I feel like all we've seen in our leagues is Melvin Gordon on people's benches.
Yeah, and we've
So
been a little bigger on Gordon than most people too, so that's a good point.
yeah,
I think it might be worth clarifying that, like, I had already said that Javonte Williams is somebody that I would bench over Henderson this week. So, like, it might be worth clarifying that just because Melvin Gordon's upside might be capped a little bit this week because of what he's dealing with, the fact that he's out there taking touches means that, like, it's not gonna boost Javonte Williams, right? I mean, unless the coach decides that he's seeing something different out of Williams this week and they ride the hot hand, which could happen. Melvin Gordon's still going to get the touches. He's still going to, take some of that opportunity away from Williams. So like both I think are true. It's just that maybe Melvin Gordon isn't going to hit that 31-yard touchdown this week.
it's possible. Yeah, can't predict it. Can't predict how these guys are actually going to come from or look with these injuries coming into the games. Because sometimes these teams just get cute and they're just flat out lying about how serious an injury is, and sometimes it's legitimate, and we just don't get to find out till the game.
It's true. Another guy that I think the injury is going to have an impact on, who is expected to play, is Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, as far as my evaluation goes, has been very boomer bust. He seems to have like 3, maybe 4 huge games every year in fantasy football. He's had a couple nice games already this year. He's off to a good start, but he's questionable, which means he'll probably play, but it's a hip. They're also playing at 4. I think he's a guy that you're probably playing if you have him, but if you just happen to be loaded at wide receiver, I don't see this being a big Tyler Lockett game, and I might be looking elsewhere if you're just stacked. But, odds are you're not. If you have Tyler Lockett, he's one of those guys you're probably relying on, so you're going to ride it out.
Yeah, that's probably the reality is if you have Tyler Lockett, you likely have to play him because draft capital, and you're not going to have maybe as many options on your bench as you feel super strong about. But if you do, it's not the worst idea to wait this week. Adam Schefter did say Tyler Lockett is expected to play against the 49ers, so we do expect him to be on the field. He was a non-participant in Thursday's practice, and he did practice on Friday. The hip in particular is kind of a scary one, especially considering the way the injury looked when it happened. Like he was on the field, laying down on the field for a while, and the entire team was huddled around him. It almost seemed like is this a thing where Lockett's like, is this an ACL or some weird thing where everybody's kind of knows, even though they want to speculate, like they know this is it for this dude for that season. That's how it felt. And then he gets up, and walks off on his own, and doesn't practice during the week. Practices Friday. It's a tough one, man. It's tough because he's had such huge games so far, and like you said, it is kind of his style, boom bust type of style. But it only takes one with that guy, and he's got Russell Wilson as his quarterback, and we've been skeptical of that 49ers secondary this year already. I mean, any week you might see Russell Wilson throw just a beaut of a deep ball, drops into 55-yarder to Lockett, and that's it. There you go.
And
so it's hard not to play him.
What's so sexy about those Russ deep balls too, that like a lot of guys don't do, is that he gets such a high angle on his throw that with a guy like Lockett, who might be a little smaller, like that ball dropping steeper when it comes down just puts it in such a nice little basket that like totally negates the height advantage. It's so crazy because like a lot of guys don't seem to do that. But these moon shots that Russ puts up there that get 60 yards down the field and then they just drop straight down.
They're so nice.
It's such a pair. It's such a good pairing.
It is, dude. Jamal Williams or Zach Moss in PPR. Where do you rank them in PPR running backs? We don't like sit down and do rankings. It's all up here in the head. But as far as picking those two running backs, man, I get the appeal of wanting to use Zach Moss because he's gotten some touchdowns. He's had like statistically fantasy PPR fantasy points wise, he's had some nice weeks recently. But I'm always super nervous and scared of the usage of that Buffalo backfield. I feel like Zach Moss has upside but zero floor. just the same way Singletary has upside, but like zero floor. I'm probably gonna play Jamal. Oh, Jamal Williams, bro. I was sitting here when I read that at first. I was thinking Javonte Williams. Jamal Williams makes that more interesting for me. Oh man.
Jamal Williams has had a decent amount of targets, and with it
Uh,
being PPR, it's interesting. I know Zach Moss has been hot, and so I think it's a question that deserves a little extra thought.
yeah. I was gonna say Javonte Williams because that's what I read in my mind when I first saw that. I was like, oh, it's Javonte Williams for me. But Jamal Williams. Hmm. Yeah, the thing is, like, the Lions have been talking about. We'll see if it proves to be true. But the Lions, Dan Campbell's come out and talked about how Swift has deserved more work and is going to get more work. What does that mean? Does that mean a few more touches, or is he gonna be the guy? Unfortunately, don't know the answer to that.
I think
I'd probably
as
play
of
Zach Moss. I
as of
probably would.
now, what that probably means to Dan Campbell is that they declared Jamal Williams the starter week 1, even though they were 50-50. Like it was a true split backfield. Like week 1 coming in, they were talking about Jamal Williams is our starter, like kind of created this tone that Swift has to earn some more touches. And then they came right out of the gates 50-50. They both had like 8 targets. Like
Yeah.
it was a true split backfield. So if he's talking about Swift getting more volume, like then that is turning into Swift being the dude because they've already been a split backfield. I think Moss is the safer pick this week too. I think Jamal Williams is worth holding on to, and I think the Lions want to run the ball more than they have been. They've said it each week so far. The problem I think for them committing to that is that Taylor Decker's been out all year. So like he's expected to come back soon. It's not this week. But I do think when Taylor Decker's out there and they have a healthy offensive line, I think they're going to really I think they want to pound the ball, and I I would hold on to Jamal Williams for a stash. Swift has also had a couple minor injuries, but they're enough to affect him as far as like volume or availability go too. So probably
For
Zach
me,
Moss, but investing in a Bills running back has been something we've both disliked.
it's so volatile. But I think you're just dealing with two split backfield situations, and you're dealing with one offense that's one of, if not the most high powered in the league, and one that isn't, one that is on the lower end of the production scale, and then you've got one at the high end. So already that's a big tick. Zach Moss has been just as involved in getting just as many touches as Jamal Williams has. You know, the Bills have the Texans this week, which you'd think like, oh, perfect, that's a great matchup. Of course, I'm playing everybody there, but that there is a world where Josh Allen just does whatever he wants to against Houston and has 4 touchdown passes and maybe gets a rushing touchdown himself or something like along those lines, like just like he did last week. And then that just kind of leaves Zach Moss with 45 yards on 8-9 touches.
Yeah,
That can happen.
Buffalo's offense is one of the offenses that takes what the defense gives them, and they're not going
Hmm.
to shut it down because of their the skill of their opponent. So I
Right.
mean, it could totally be that the Texans try to stop the run when the game gets starts getting out of hand, and the Bills are like, well, okay, if we can still throw it, we're gonna.
Yeah, they will. Like, yeah, it's 45-3. We get it. We're throwing the ball. um, that's yeah. I mean, obviously you're not super excited about either one of those guys that you got to play, but you're picking between them. I don't love either guy, but I'm gonna play Zach Moss.
Yeah, I go Moss as well.
Now Jamal Williams is gonna get a freaking goal line carry for a touchdown.
See, my biggest issue with Decker coming back is they're already talking about moving Sewell back to the right side. This kid is 20 years old. He's like one of the youngest kids in the league. I think they said he was the youngest starting player in the NFL, and he looked good. Like he looked
Yeah.
there were some rookie moments, but like overall, acceptable amount of rookie moments, and there were just as many times that he looked really good. And he was out there
Hmm.
like pushing defenders on the ground, and he's like you could just tell he's got this like burning fire too. Like kid's good, and I know Decker's been around for a while, but like I think that's just a conversation that I don't know. It sounds like they've already made up their mind, but it kind of pisses me off. It's like this kid's out here super young, could be the anchor on the left side of our line for 15 years, potentially. I mean, that's what you're hoping for, but I mean, the
Right.
kid looks legit, and they're already moving him back and messing with him. I don't like it. Okay, that was just a
So we've
personal
covered.
rant. That doesn't affect fantasy too much, I don't think, but I feel a little better. Sorry.
Yep.
Um,
Let's transition to some of these receivers.
all right, so we've got. I mean, the big news is that Julio and AJ Brown are both out. I mean, we've already been kind of bummed out about AJ Brown so far, so maybe this is a chance for him to get healthy and come back with a little bit of pop. But for this week, it sucks. So Tannehill's already come out and said he's got all the confidence in the world in Westbrook Ekine. There is another name out there that I think is worth monitoring, but I don't have high expectations on it because Derrick Henry's had a few extra targets recently too. But Jeremy Mcnichols is a guy that I think is capable if they were to use him in that role, get him some receiving looks, especially with his competitive, I guess we'll say, as the games have been for Tennessee so far this year. I think there's some people out there that might have thought Tennessee'd be a little more intimidating overall as a team, but it seems like they've been in a position to where they need to move the ball quite a bit, and I don't know. It's just somebody that's on the back of my mind is Jeremy McNichols. He's a receiving back. I know that like Derrick Henry's not going to give up too much work out of that backfield, but when you get into a situation where you're losing two Pro Bowl receivers, like somebody's got to get some more looks. Um, Westbrook Ekine
Definitely.
seems to be the clear bet, but McNichols was just somebody else that crossed my mind.
Yeah, it's not a bad name to throw out there. Could be like one of those weird situations this week.
Well, they
Lockett or Deante Johnson. Probably Deante Johnson, just because I think he provides you with a floor that Lockett doesn't. We were just talking about Lockett and how boom bust he can be, and then he's dealing with this injury on top of it. Of course, he could catch a long bomb and he makes your day. That's certainly can happen. But just with the information we know about his injury, and Deante Johnson's back and playing and healthy, there's no Chase Claypool. I think Deontay's going to be a huge focal point, get a lot of targets today.
especially
So,
you were
but
talking probably off stream that Big Ben's average up the target hasn't been very high this year, and Deontay runs all
no.
those intermediate routes.
Yeah, Najee Harris had 19 targets as a running back last week. And that's because Ben just looks to get the ball out super quick. Whether that's his arm or his offensive line or a combination of both, it is a reality, and it's been like that since last year. Um, gonna go with Deontay Johnson. Hope that that dude seems to get hurt every freaking week on the field. So let's hope he can stay out there for a full game. And I think if he does, he's gonna provide a nice day.
Yeah, Deontay's
AJ,
the safe bet there for sure.
yeah, AJ Green a good flex. Oof, oof, good. I don't know. Can you do it? Yeah, you could do it. I don't know if it's good. The problem with that, we've talked till we're blue in the face about these receivers with the Cardinals. But is it AJ Green? Is it Christian Kirk? Is it Rondell Moore? Like, what other receiver do you want to buy into that week for the Cardinals that you think is going to have a good game? Unfortunately, that's one of those I can't tell you, dude. That every week, one or two of those guys is going to have a good game, but I don't know who it's going to be. AJ Green is my least favorite, but that's a personal thing. I don't think Dub feels that way. Maybe I don't know.
No, I mean least favorite season long. It's between for me. It's between Kirk and Green hasn't really produced. I mean, Kirk's had a nice game already. Been I've been pitting Kirk and Moore against each other, so I feel like if one succeeds, the other one fades, which is the only reason I have Kirk lower. I think if you were just looking at the players, AJ Green would be my least intriguing option. Um, if you're playing AJ Green, you're hoping for a touchdown. That's all there is to it. So I mean, he might have a couple other catches. He might find some open space. But if you are starting AJ Green, and I don't love it, you're just hoping he scores a touchdown, and it could happen. I would like to think that there's some better options out there, somebody that can give you a better opportunity. I mean, um, we were looking at some players that we were interested in that I think we'd both put ahead of AJ Green. That who was it that had 40% own rate? We just looked up before the stream. Was it
You talking about Renfro?
Renfro? Like I might feel better about starting Renfro over AJ Green, and he's available in 60% of leagues.
Probably. Just because you don't know, just because there is no there, like AJ Green could go out there and have 6 targets, can catch 2 of them for X amount of yards, no touchdown, and you're super disappointed with your day. He just had that big game this past week, and that's why it throws that wrench in the game with him. but that could be a one-off. If AJ Green comes out and does that again, has another 100 yards, I'm going to start paying attention. But in my mind right now, that's not going to be consistent. That's not going to happen.
It's true. And
I mean, maybe we need to start pivoting like this. Has it been Rondell Moore that hasn't had the big game in 2 weeks? He's the one this week.
Go for the guy that's
how it goes.
like had the longest drought.
Yep.
I mean, it could be AJ Green's. I mean, it's a good point though, because what you're saying then is like if AJ Green has another game like that, then you're interested. So like, don't cut him, because if he does, then it's like you already have him. You know, he could be somebody we're talking about as a top waiver ad in a few days. So it's good that you have him if in case he does hit again this week. But we both kind of analyzed that receiving core a few times, and I think we're both leaning away from AJ Green so far. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It's more about likelihood. AJ Green or Jacoby Myers?
Man, you know, they're playing Tampa Bay. Patriots are playing Tampa Bay. Jacoby Myers is guaranteed targets. He is the most targeted pass catcher, I believe, not just receiver. Now that James White's gone, especially for New England. We don't feel super strongly about New England's offense from a production standpoint. I don't really think they're that team that can light up a scoreboard. But I would probably play Myers over AJ Green. Yeah, I expect Tampa Bay to be able to score, but even if they can't, that game at the very least either is going to be competitive or New England's going to have to try to keep up, one of the two. And in either situation, I like Jacoby Myers.
Tampa Bay's got one of the worst pass defenses in the league right now too.
Right. They're just so bad. I mean, Sherman is there, but we don't know what Sherman is. This dude was sitting on the couch this last week eating potato chips, so I'm not gonna think that he's gonna come out and just be some shutdown. Myers is not an exciting player, but he's guaranteed some work, and he's a good wide receiver. He's just not a really special great player. Well, nobody else over there is getting it done.
We were talking about Sherman a little bit too. So like I think with his size and like his awareness, he could still help a little bit in zone coverage. He's not going to be somebody running down the field with guys in man. Like kind of seems like the Bucs have been running a lot of man, so that to me it seems like it might be a bad fit. But we both agreed that Sherman's biggest value to the Bucs defense might be mentorship. I mean, they've got some decent young corners, and I know they've had some injuries, but these guys aren't going to I don't think any of them are out long term. It's just a matter of time. But Richard Sherman being in town should help that defense to some extent, even if it is just giving these guys some pointers. But I had one weird question, and it was like, if Richard Sherman's in town, and even if
Darrell Henderson is playing. Go ahead, Deb.
If Richard Sherman's in town, and even if he is just helping these younger guys get better, which could be very valuable, I think these guys are talented. Does that give you any rest of season interest in the Tampa Bay running backs? Like, have they been throwing the ball because they've been giving up yards and points? Have they, I guess, is there any more interest in the running game? Because so far their running game has been like non-existent. And I had higher hopes for Ronald Jones than most people, and so far I've been wrong. But like, are we seeing a Tampa Bay running game in the future if these DBs get it together? And does Richard Sherman come into play with that?
The secondary getting better would help the run game. I believe that's something you pointed out to me years ago, and I do think that proves to be true. I think that is somewhat of a correlation in general in the NFL. Will Richard Sherman make them better? Is kind of like what I don't know. I do agree that at the very least he can come in and maybe some of these young guys that are over there, he's going to be able to help their game just from his knowledge and his experience and knowing how to play right situations. Maybe some of these guys need more help with just knowing how to work receivers on a press or how to read their body language better on their routes. Like maybe there's information like that will improve the secondary more than just Richard Sherman, the player himself, being out there. But then at the same time, if he does have something left in the tank, then he's got to, if if we assume that for a second, we don't know if that's true, then of course he's got to be good enough to be out there on the field and be an improvement already, right? So either way you look at those situations, we do expect him to improve. But I just, you know what it is with that backfield, dude? The running, it's Arians. Like I don't trust him to make any decisions that are going to make any sense for us trying to predict that situation going into a game. And he's proven time and again how quickly he's willing to just bench a guy if he fumbles or something like that, even if he doesn't lose it. Like those guys are just in the doghouse and they're not playing again. So such an uncomfortable situation to want to start those guys because we don't think anything about like Fournette's ability. We don't think he's like some special player.
As opportunity.
Right, he's got the opportunity, and that means Ronald Jones isn't getting it either. And it's just I just don't want any part of that backfield. I don't want to play anybody until we have multiple weeks of consistency with someone, and I don't even know if we're going to get that. Henderson is playing, but question is how much. Yeah, the question is how much with Henderson. That we can't predict. But he sat out last week. He was participating in practice this week, and then he was listed as being able to play. I don't think the Rams would rush him back. I don't think they have a reason to rush him back against Arizona. They just beat Tampa. They just beat the Bucs without him. I think because he's active, I do think that means he's going to be on the field. But it is possible that it's more of a split than we want between him and Sony Michel, and that could just end up being the case. Like not just because Henderson's just coming back from injury, that could be the case for the rest of the season.
Yeah, there's probably a little extra intrigue in getting him out there because it's a division game. I do think that the Bucs make it a little different because like they also want to beat the Bucs. They're both in the NFC, but there might be a little more interest in that because of the division matchup.
That's true.
But he's going to play. He's going to be out there enough to give you a chance, give you an opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm playing him personally.
Gerardo, thanks for the sub. I just saw that pop up. We appreciate it.
Okay, so we were on these receivers. Curtis Samuel.
Oh well, Bruce.
Is...
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bruce Arians, dude. So like, it seems weird to think about because it is the NFL, and we kind of put these leagues on the pedestal, right? Like, we don't like to think that there's things that happen like this, okay? But Bruce Arians has said a lot, and a lot of it has seemed to go against what you might want to see the team do or what might make sense as a fan watching the games. But, dude, I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to think that Bruce Arians is kind of like Adam Gase in Denver situation. Like, Adam Gase, as offensive coordinator, when Peyton Manning broke all those passing season-long passing records, should get no credit. But we didn't know that until now, right? Like, we're years down the road, and we're like, wow, this guy just totally slipped through the cracks. And another guy that I think we kind of look at that way have been some of the coaches that have coached teams that LeBron's been on in the NBA. And you look at these guys and you're like, well, was he really even doing anything? And I'm kind of getting that vibe from Bruce Arians where it's like, you have an awful lot more to say than you have to contribute to the team. Like, I know you had a couple good years in Arizona, but like, this is Tom Brady's team, right? Like, are you just chilling? Like, you just throw some comments out there because you want to seem like the coach? I'm starting to think that.
It's definitely possible. That's exactly what it is. It's possible that Arians is not the one benching Ronald Jones after a fumble. Tom Brady's benching Ronald Jones after a fumble.
Yeah, well, like Gio Bernard.
Tom just gives him a look. He just gives him a stern look in the huddle after the fumble, and Ronald just puts his head down and jogs off the field. Okay, I'll see you guys next week.
Tom Brady's talking to the camera crews ahead of time. He's like, "Listen, you're not airing any of these signals," but he's out on the field and he's like a angry father. He's like, "You get off the field. You go over there."
Yeah. Yep. I'm sure you've heard that Peyton Manning story before that Pat McAfee told once. I heard it a long time ago, so I don't remember like verbatim what it was, but there was some player on the offense, this was back in the Colts days, that did something. I don't know if they dropped a pass or if it was a running back that fumbled, but something like that happened, and they were coming back to the huddle, and Peyton just points to the sidelines. He looks at the player and just points to the sidelines, so the player just turns back around and goes to the sideline, and the coach, whoever, I can't remember who was there at the time, but coach, he's like, "What are you doing? You got to go back in. You got to go back in." And he's like, "Peyton told me I couldn't." And then he went to go back on the field because of the coach, and Peyton points again. And so even the coaches were like, "Oh, okay." And he just didn't play for the rest of the game. He just didn't play.
There's a name coming to mind. Don't quote me on it, but it was. I remember it being an older name from the Colts, and I wanted to say it was like a Brandon Stokely. Like I think it was.
Yeah, yeah, that might have been right.
Or and he ended up with having a pretty nice little career there, and he had some
Yep.
good seasons. But yeah, at that time it was like, nope. If that's what you're gonna do, you're not playing.
And I fully believe that that's what is happening in Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. I'm sure of it. Like that's his team. He runs that offense.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But sorry, you were starting to get into some other receivers.
Well, I was just gonna mention Curtis Samuel is back. Just something to throw out there as like, how is this going to affect anyone else on that team, if at all? I have Logan Thomas, and I think like that provides me with a little bit of. It just makes me wonder with volume. There already wasn't. Logan Thomas is on the field all the time, and he gets a lot of those intermediate targets. And is that going to be Samuel's game, or like what kind of like how are they going to scheme Curtis Samuel into this playbook? If it's anything like it was with the Panthers, because you got the Ron Rivera connection, they use Samuel a lot in Carolina as that short intermediate guy. So he's active. Just curious to see. I don't even know how much he's going to play, but I expect he'll probably be out there quite a bit. So he's
Well,
active. What I don't know for whatever that's worth.
and that's you saying, and I agree that like slot receivers, good slot receivers, and good tight ends compete for looks.
They
So like
compete for looks. Yeah.
we're saying that like we're good with McLaurin. That's not like you're not changing anything with him. It's just more about like
No.
where you're at on the field and where these guys are trying to find open space. And tight ends and slot receivers tend to kind of make their careers in the same spot on the field.
Right. Yep. Saying we've already touched on the Brown situation. Julio and AJ Brown are both out. Tyler Lockett is expected to play. MVS is put on injured reserve. That's who cares. When I saw that, I was like, who cares? You could never trust him, and you're certainly not going to be able to go pick up an Allen Lazard and trust him. I wouldn't even waste my time with it. Um, let's see here. Bateman was activated. Rashad Bateman with Baltimore. He's not going to play this week. Or sorry, I didn't mean activated. He returned to practice in week 4. Sorry.
Good player. I loved him in college, but Sammy Watkins has been a sneaky pick out of that offense too. Like Sammy Watkins, they're looking for like in key moments in the game. It's not somebody that's getting like garbage reps.
Right.
If Sammy Watkins gets any better, and Bateman's going to affect that directly, I'm really interested to see how that plays out because I'm starting to feel a little more confident in the wide receiver 2 role in Baltimore.
Sure. Yeah, it's something to look out for. Bateman would be a guy that might be worth putting on the end of your bench if you can afford to, and just kind of wait and see. It may be nothing, but we always like trying to get ahead on situations like that because it's a lot easier to do that than try to get into a bidding war or waiver claim or try to trade for a guy if he just so happens to pop and be involved.
100%. And I think if Bateman were to take over that Watkins role, or if Watkins gets hurt, which he does, and that ends up being Bateman's, that's pretty intriguing to me.
Yeah. I have Tyreek Hill, McLaurin, and Williams. Is that like Mike Williams in roster? And benching Debo, Emmanuel Sanders, and Pittman in another fantasy team. I mean, you've got a great group of wide receivers there. That's got to be Mike Williams, right? Assuming that's the case, well done on that hit with Mike Williams, and well done on the Debo Samuel pick in your draft as well. Picking up Emmanuel Sanders was a nice pickup, and drafting Pittman late was nice. So, man, picking up Pittman late. Hey, bro. Will you listen to
Hey,
us when we first started doing this, like back before the season started? Because these are some guys we were throwing out there.
hell yeah.
It's a solid roster though. Mike Williams has been crushing it so far this year.
Yeah. And
Devonta
we've been
Smith
wanting
or
that to
Jacoby
happen for
Myers.
years.
Devonta Smith and Jacoby Myers. That is an interesting one.
There is a lot of heat being put on Jalen Hurts passing right now because there are
Yeah,
a
there
lot
is.
more targets out there than there are opportunities for those guys. The easy out is that they're playing Kansas City and they're at home. So like it would be really easy to say Philly's going to have to throw the ball. I mean that's just like I said, it's the easy out. I think
Yeah.
Devonta Smith is a good player. He made a couple nice catches last week. But do you really think that's going to happen is the real question.
Right. Man. This is I hate like answering it like this because it's kind of a cop out, but it's true. Like I think Jacoby is guaranteed to provide you with something, but he's not going to be able to put up the same type of fantasy day that Devonta Smith could potentially. I assume you feel the same. Like Devonta Smith, we feel like is a pretty damn good player. He's definitely very small, and he's not out there breaking any sort of tackles, but he gets open so well with his route running ability. Like he just is always open. And the problem is Hurts. Like we can't trust Hurts. We can't really rely on him all the time. He's proven that already, and that was a worry we had coming into the season too. That was one of the reasons why I was out on basically everything Eagles, and then I ended up taking Goddard. He's gone. Cut him just because of the Jalen Hurts, such a bad situation.
It is.
Who would you play there, Dub? I'm really not sure. I don't want to play Jacoby Myers over Devonta Smith. I just don't want to. But I'm playing Devonta Smith, and I'm feeling super nervous about it.
I mean,
it's tough.
For what you can say about,
I don't know if I would.
For what you can say about Jacoby Myers' volume, because it's there. There's quite a bit. He's got 29 targets through 3 weeks. Let's just break this down. He's got 29 targets through 3 weeks, right?
Who is this?
Jacoby Myers. So, and that's what we've talked about with Jacoby Myers being intriguing is the volume. Devonta Smith.
Gotta be less than that, right? Seems like it.
Has 21 targets. So it's a little closer than I might have thought for volume. The problem is that they're not connecting on a lot of these looks.
It's
it's
very
against
inefficient.
some defenses that you'd think it would be a little better. Here, the other problem here is that you've got the matchups, and they're playing against Kansas City, and the Eagles are playing Kansas City, and the Patriots are playing Tampa, and they're both coming off losses, and they're both teams that are gonna just light it up from time to time. So game script is 1-for-1 too. I think both of these teams are going to be reeling. They should be reeling quite a bit.
I know.
It's so close.
I agree.
I'm going.
It is very close.
Here's the thing: if you take the floor with Jacoby Myers and he goes out there and he gets you 9, 10, 11 targets and he gets you 48 yards and no touchdowns, like okay, well you got your 8 points, but that's it. And I think I'm going upside. I think I'm going Devonta Smith because regardless of what happens, you knew you had a chance to get a 15, 20-point day out of him. And Jacoby Myers is nice if he's the last piece on your lineup. If you're looking at your lineup and you're like, I'm feeling really good about every other person on my lineup and I just need some points, I think we both tend to steer away from that, but I understand that there's room to consider that. But I'm going Devonta Smith.
I am too.
It's close.
And it is close, and I'm going to go with him too just because I like him so much more as a player. And there's not enough distinction in the matchup for me to want to lean Myers' way. The only thing you can say about the Patriots is they likely are not going to be able to run the ball against the Bucs.
True.
You know?
They might not even
try. They're have to pass. Right.
2 of the 3 teams they've played this year haven't tried. Like, that's how much respect their run D has.
I know.
And, Mac Jones looked okay, too. Like, he was hitting some throws. Like, week 1, I know he took a step back, but there's more to be had there, yeah.
Yeah, he's capable. He's capable for fantasy purposes anyway to provide some floor for those guys. At least for Myers, he seems to be, like, the only consistent one.
Yeah.
So, Claypool's out. We've already brought that up, but Claypool is out. Kenny Galladay was not even on the injury report by the end of this week, and Slayton and Shepard are both out. Maybe some sneaky Evan Ingram play here, but I know that's your boy over there, Kenny Galladay. I'm sure you're super excited about that.
Dude, he just won't go away because the thing is like Slayton and Shepard come out last week, and it was an opportunity for him, and he had his best game to date, but it wasn't great. I'm making rhymes too, by the way. but
I
then
hear spitting.
yeah, so then I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's some opportunity there just based on circumstance. Like, as far as the situation in general goes, totally out. But then it's like, okay, well, now it's just Kenny Galladay and Ingram. And Ingram did nothing. He had like 2 for 21, I think. And then
Mhm.
Galladay's out there for like, I think it was like 6 for 60 something. And it's like, okay, well, that's not a bad day, but that was your best day. That was your best game this season, and it was in your best circumstance too. So like, here's the thing. I'm out, hard out on Kenny Galladay, but there's reason to consider starting him this week because of that. If he goes and has another 6 for 60 day, like, I mean, if he's not scoring 2 touchdowns or going over 100, like, bro, I've done it. I've done crazier things before, but like cut
Putnam.
territory. And I think you've got an opportunity to trade him, but you're gonna have to take so little. It's gonna feel weird. You're gonna have to trade him for like a defense you really want. That might be on, and it sounds crazy, but I would. If there's like a top-notch defense that you feel really good about that's scoring a lot of points, don't go for one of those defenses that's like surprising people or they've you go get the defense. If you can go do something like that, just do it. If Galladay has another mediocre week, like just get him off of your roster.
Yeah, he's gonna be going against Lattimore. More than likely, he's gonna get shadow coverage by Lattimore with the Saints, and that's a tough ass corner to play against. That's a tough matchup for him. But he is the by far the only wide receiver out there worth getting some volume. Should be. Will Daniel Jones throw it to him when he's got tight coverage with Lattimore? Because
He
that
got
hasn't been
that
something he's been really.
he got that money like he can run with Lattimore.
It's true.
He
It's
got that
true.
money to play with
He did.
Lattimore. Better go get it.
He did get that money.
Listen, I mean Lattimore effectively shut down Mike Evans twice last year. So like Marshawn Lattimore's a very good corner. I'm not saying like expect Galladay to go ham in shadow coverage with Marshawn Lattimore. I'm just saying like I'm running out of excuses for the guy. I'm out of excuses for the guy.
I hear you. You were over that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, get him out of here. Trade him for a defense next week.
Right. Okay, so Miles Gaskin. So start one. Miles Gaskin, Kenny Galladay, and Trace Sermon, PPR. Oof. Hmm. You just named three guys that we are not excited about having to start this week.
Gaskin got. I don't think. I don't think I'm expecting this to happen very often, but Malcolm Brown had a long touchdown, and I thought he'd be more like 5 yards or less kind of dude, and he broke like a 30-yard touchdown run last week. I'm leaning Gaskin out of that group, but Indy's
Yeah,
run defense is pretty decent too. So I mean, I think you're capped on all those guys a little bit this week, but I think I'm leaning Gaskin.
I think I do too, and I don't love it. I wish I could tell you to play Trey Sermon, but we just can't at all trust that situation. And we were just talking about Galladay. Galladay's been really struggling to produce any sort of value as far as fantasy goes, and he's got a tough matchup again this week with Lattimore. Guys, when it's multiple weeks of no production with guys, I'm always in a spot where I bench them until they prove to me that they're going to go out and play, and then I'll put them in my lineup the following week. Galladay's in that territory for me. Probably playing Gaskin. Is LAR on one of those defenses, the Rams?
I don't think so. I think they're a very good defense. I think they've got some star power over there. The problem with the Rams defense is that their offense is scoring very fast, and it makes it hard for defenses to be out there on the field all game. I know I know most people don't put thought into that, but I mean we're 3 weeks into the season, and in semi-standard scoring, the Rams are 14th right now. I just don't think that's somebody you're investing in unless you're really loving their upcoming schedule or you just personally feel really good about the team. They've got Arizona this week, Seattle. Then they've got the Giants, Detroit, Houston, Tennessee, San Francisco. I mean, that's a decent little stretch there. If you are looking, that's a month or a little over a month of what I would expect to be some pretty good defensive production. But I don't know. I mean, it's already crazy for you to be trading someone like Kenny Galladay for a defense in the first place. I'm trying to get like I don't know, one of two or three. I mean, who do you think's in that territory? I've had a lot of respect for the Saints defense. They're number one right now, and I think they're also really good. But like, are you
The Saints
affecting
are
that
really
at all?
good. I think the Bills have been much improved from what they did last year, but I don't feel like it's clear that about any defense that is like that defense yet. We're too early in the season for it
It's true.
to know. We need more clarity. And if you were actually going to do like a Kenny Galladay for a defensive trade, then I feel like it should be it should be maybe some sort of 2 for 2, and you should throw in some just like bogus piece at the end of your bench that you don't care about, and try to get something decent back in return outside of just the defense. Especially if you're going to do it right now, when I really don't think there's any true clarity on what defense is that defense.
It's true. I agree. I'm just looking at these now, and I'm seeing like there's a couple that you're interested in based on what they have last year, what they've done so far, but nobody that's
Yeah.
really you're looking at like this is the defense I want to have for the rest of the year. So I was getting a little bit
Right.
crazy. Okay, sometimes I do that. There's a couple others that I think have some good prospects going forward, but I mean that's a little bit of a gamble.
Right.
I mean, but what if you're getting an upgrade at a defense or a kicker if you're just like really haven't if you really have a bum out there, but you can get like a 2 for 1 and get like a Pittman back. Like
I would do it.
if you could trade like a Galladay for a Pittman in a defense or a kicker upgrade.
Yeah. If you could, yeah, I mean, I really would definitely do it if you could get like a Pittman type. If you could get somebody along those lines who hasn't really totally popped yet, but has shown a lot of promise for the season, I would snag that. It's not like he's not. I mean, he's producing the same as a Galladay, or better,
Better,
maybe better.
better.
Yeah. Uh, who would you in defenses? Who would you play between Tennessee, who's going against the Jets, or Tampa against the Patriots? So the Jets they seem like the prime offense to want to play defenses against right now. Zach Wilson seems to be guaranteed to give you a couple interceptions at this point. So you have good options here either way. But because the Patriots offense is also not very scary to go against at all, and Tampa just has, a lot of potential there for sacks or turnovers themselves with that defensive front, the pressure they're going to put on Mac Jones, I probably am still going to play Tampa Bay. What do you think? Would you just say screw that and go with Tennessee because you want that Zach Wilson matchup?
There's a lot. There's a lot of weird with Tennessee without AJ Brown and Julio Jones. So like the reality is we have no idea really how Tennessee's offense is going to function. I mean, I'm assuming Derrick Henry's going to just run everybody over as often as the defense will allow it, but um, that could also create a slower game, maybe a closer scoring game than we might expect going against the Jets. I think I'm rolling with Tampa Bay too. I think, like, yeah, I agree with what you said.
Yeah.
I just don't like weird and like
Yeah.
when Tennessee's missing AJ Brown and Julio Jones, like I just don't know what to expect. It throws a lot of my expectations out the window.
Right. Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, I get wanting to play against the Jets. It seems so nice, but if I had both those, I would play Tampa Bay personally. I also have a nice history of just being bad at playing the right defense, so maybe don't listen to me.
Well, on the other side too, though, like something that's worth mentioning, like the Jets, Crowder is. It sounds like Crowder's going to play, but he's got the hamstring too, so he's going to be another guy that's out there a little limited probably. And Elijah Moore's out too, so I mean, what wasn't good got a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And so like Jets offense is in some trouble. One opportunity in there, my boy Denzel Mims. I really want him to be a thing. He's got another opportunity, kind of like Kenny Galladay. It's like things just keep popping up that might help him out. Maybe he's behind the scenes on some of those. I don't know. He's like, hey Crowder, I got the perfect remedy for that hamstring, bro. Like, keep keeping him hobbled up a little bit. No, I don't know, but anyway, Denzel Mims has another opportunity, and it's another situation where they're probably gonna have to throw the ball. I think that's just gonna be the Jets game script going forward. So
You need to just
um,
trade that guy to like Green Bay. or something.
Dude.
I'll give that guy a shot somewhere with a team that needs a number 2.
Dude, don't talk like that. I wish. But yeah,
How big of a fab? How big of a bid you putting in on him on fab if that happens?
if he goes there,
If he goes somewhere, yeah, like let's just say that hypothetically them, yeah,
dude.
putting a nice
Realistically,
hundo on it.
no, it'd be I would put like 15 on it because I just wouldn't think people are gonna go that hard on it. I think he's off the radar on
Right.
most people. Like there's some situations that he could go to that I'd be super excited about. Like if there was an injury, and I'm not saying that I hope it happens because I like both of these guys, but like if there were an injury to one of the top 2 guys in Seattle and he ends up out there with some opportunity,
Yeah, that'd be another great one.
but yeah, okay. So Crowder's got a hammy. He's playing. Elijah Moore's out. That's kind of a bummer because that was another rookie that we were interested in.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is unfortunate. It's better to not be hurt than to be hurt. But at the same time, I was gonna say that Jeff's offense is just so bad right now that even if he was in there, like I don't know what it's not gonna mean anything for his production more than likely. It's just getting him more reps, which is obviously it's a plus. But when we were hoping for Elijah Moore to be able to potentially maybe sneak in and have himself a quiet, nice little fantasy season as a rookie, it was in mind with Zach Wilson being able to kind of keep this offense alive and keep it going. And so far, whether that's his protection issues he's got with his line, injuries and things like that going on, I don't know. But Zach Wilson himself has just been super shaky, and that's hurt the entire team really badly. Really thought that was going to be a sneaky offense, and so far it's looking like the complete opposite, like it's the same old Jets.
Yeah, they had some weapons there, and Zach Wilson looked like one of the better passers in the preseason, and it just hasn't happened.
Like really nice, really strong arm. Had some lasers in preseason, just beautiful balls. I don't know what happened there with that, but it's not been that at all.
They've had Mekhi Becton out for a little bit too.
Right.
Maybe I'm hoping that he comes back and maybe he
Provide
gets a
some
little
protection.
more. Yeah.
Right.
Is he back? He's not back.
No, I don't think so.
No,
Don't
he's
believe so.
not.
I don't think there was any more wide receiver injuries. I think we kind of covered all the big ones, all the ones that were a thing. So injury-wise, I think that might be pretty much it.
There was one injury from a couple weeks ago that offered some opportunity. The production's not there, but there's somebody that I'm kind of keeping an eye on. Like almost zero stat production right now, but sometimes you see some things on the field that pique your interest. So Jarvis Landry went out, and Odell played. Odell caught a slant and immediately got hit by 2 guys pretty early. He had a few catches after that, but then during the week they said that his shoulder got banged up, which is a super bummer with as long as we've waited for him to come back. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was on that play because he took a slant. He had a guy on each shoulder just drill him. Like he played through it, but anyway, the broadcasting team was calling the Browns game last week kept talking about this kid, and I did notice him on the field quite a bit. He was their third string running back, Demetric Felton, and they're using him in the slot. They're running end around stuff. They set up a screen for him, and he's got incredible quickness. Like it's like kind of like an Alvin Kamara situation as far as like just that really short, like 2 to 3 yard movement kind of speed.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find open space for this kid. I mean, they were hitting him out in the sideline. They were moving him around in motion. But they had him out there with Hunt and with Chubb. And the broadcasting team was also pointing out they think he's supposed to be. Apparently, the coaching staff. This is the comment that stood out to me most. Is apparently the coaching staff had asked Felton to start learning the Jarvis Landry routes before Landry got hurt. So I don't know if Landry was already dealing with something and maybe, compensating for that ended up causing the major injury. I don't know. But allegedly, according to these broadcasters, Felton was asked to learn Landry's role on the offense before Landry even got hurt, and they're like plugging him into that now. So the production's not there, and I understand that. But sometimes it's nice to be early on these guys, and if you're looking at a wasteland on your bench, I think it's worth scooping him up last minute just to see if this does end up becoming a thing. I mean, obviously he's still like learning the NFL. He's learning the speed of the game. He's learning this route tree or this role on the offense. But like he can make if he gets one-on-ones in the quickness that I saw in short situations, like this could end up being a thing.
Okay.
It's like
I like.
it's weird, man. I think part of it's because he's smaller, and so he can just get those legs going a lot faster than some of these other guys. But
Yeah.
we'll see. It could end up being nothing, but there's an opportunity there for him. And DPJ and Higgins haven't taken over any like significant role on the offense. I know DPJ had a nice little sideline catch last week, but Felton's on my radar. And
Okay.
if you have pieces on your bench you like, you're not cutting them for him. But yeah, if you're looking at somebody that you're already cutting and you don't know what to do with that spot, I might scoop Felton up, or at least put him on your watch list and just see how this plays out.
So Chuba or Kareem Hunt and a flex. Those guys are really close for me, like really, really close. Mm. I probably play Chuba. Kareem Hunt just came off a great game, and he's a great player. But he has weeks where he disappears for obvious reasons with Chubb, and sometimes the game just doesn't break for him, and he can sometimes be kind of phased out of a game plan. Chuba, we expect to be involved the entire game and be on the field. The Panthers could pull some dumb crap and have who's the backup they got there?
Freeman.
Yeah, like Freeman could end up getting some work and some goal line work that we don't anticipate or expect. But we're not predicting that that's going to happen. We're assuming that Chuba's going to get most of that work and be involved in the pass game. So I'm probably going to play Chuba for the guaranteed floor there. Either one could have a big day. It's certainly in Kareem Hunt's world, he can do that too. But yeah, that's close. It's a good pick either way you go. But probably going to play Hubbard there. You agree? Disagree?
Yeah, I'm going Chuba. I think the opportunity in the offense, the volume's going to be there, and Hunt's been up and down a little more than I'd like. I like Hunt a lot. It's just that you have two good options, and Chuba should be a straight line. Like, this is the dude.
Yeah, I have Kareem Hunt, and I'm playing him as a flex this week on my team. But I know that what that comes with. He might put up a 20-point week like he did last week, or he's also got to end up give you 5 points. That happens too. Pittman, Hollywood, or Tim Patrick in full PPR. It's another good one too, man. Hollywood had those drops against the Lions that were, they were really unfortunate for his fantasy day, but if he doesn't have those drops, or even if he catches one or two of those, like I remember that one that was a huge touchdown. It was an automatic touchdown. He catches the ball. Then I don't even think it was probably particularly close. We're probably sitting here saying it's Hollywood all day over those guys. But because if he had that all of a sudden, like it makes you a little more nervous about him, doesn't it?
It
Not
does.
like you're totally out on him or anything, like, but you just wonder.
Well, some of
It's a
that was
tougher
game
matchup against
plan
Denver.
too. I don't know that Baltimore's going to come in and just like chuck the ball down the field like they did against Detroit. I think that was planned.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean Hollywood was dropped 2 touchdowns last week. Like that's just a thing. He dropped 2 big touchdowns. I don't know.
I think I'd still play him, man.
Hollywood.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be sitting here advocating to play Hollywood Brown because I was totally out on him this year, but he's just looked different this year. He's looked different. It feels like they are making it a point to get him looks and get him the ball. The opportunity has been there. He's been producing and he's looked so good, and he had those drops against the Lions. Otherwise, it would have been another week of really good production. But the thing is I kind of like all three of those wide receivers. Like I like Pittman. We were advocates of Pittman. I have him on on a couple of my teams, or one of my teams.
Pittman's building something with Wentz too. Like he's somebody that each week, even if he's getting you, 8 to 10 points and it's not super flashy, like every week I feel like we're gonna feel a little better about Pittman. Hollywood's got the upside though. Probably, yeah, probably take the upside.
Yeah, Pittman provides upside too. It's between those two for us, it seems like. Tim Patrick is just that, like, he could certainly be, he's probably going to get something this week and could have a good game, but I just can't play him if I have Pittman or Hollywood. I just can't play him over those guys. It sounds like maybe I lean Hollywood and maybe Dub would lean Pittman.
there's
So
some chemistry there with Pittman. There's some good
Yeah.
corners from Miami too. So like we're taking consistency versus upside. I mean, if you're looking upside, go Hollywood, I think. And if you're looking for a floor, I think Pittman is the dude. And I think in a couple weeks, we're probably gonna have some more clarity. But I feel I'm a little higher on Pittman, I think, than a lot of people too. But yeah, Hollywood, if he catches those 2 touchdowns, we're like, well, you must start him. He can do that.
yeah, he'd be a must start. Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to just like block that out of my mind and say let's just stick with Hollywood for now.
Greg, I'm going Henderson over Sanders. Sanders got his first carry in like the 3rd quarter last week, and it's just a really nasty situation over there. I think Miles Sanders is a good enough running back that he deserves more volume, but it's not there. And I mean for there not really being a clear explanation for why that happened, that really scared me.
It didn't make any sense, and but it was also so obvious that it made no sense to anyone. They got trashed so bad, like I think even during the broadcast, but on online on Twitter, everybody's trashing them. I just wonder if they're gonna look at that game plan and go like, okay, we can't screw that up again. We can't do that. So let's get Sanders more involved early. The problem is playing the Chiefs. If the Eagles end up getting down early against the Chiefs, then you're going to need Miles Sanders involved in the pass game, maybe get a screen pass that he can take to the house or just be involved in that enough that he doesn't get phased out of the game early. And that makes me nervous on its own. I'm going to play Henderson too over Miles Sanders this week. Lockett, if you've got Lockett, Cooper, Evans, Godwin, Cooks, Ridley, pick 2.
Cooper and Godwin for me.
Is this Amari Cooper? Or Cooper Kupp? Probably Amari Cooper.
If it's Amari, I'm still I'm going Cooper. Yeah, Amari Cooper and Chris Godwin, I think. There's some great options there though. Like how do you feel when you're putting like Mike Evans and Brandon Cooks on your bench? Ridley's a great receiver. He just hasn't really done much yet. So like that's the only reason I'm not really talking about him. I like him. And I think there's a lot more to be had, but it just hasn't happened yet.
I know. And I think this is a potential prime bounce back spot for Amari. He's had a couple weeks where he's struggled. He's been banged up. Carolina's secondary is pretty hurt right now. They've lost important pieces back there. And it feels like this is a game where Amari could do it. But man, he's been so frustrating these past couple weeks.
I know.
I think Godwin is a definite in for me too. Like that's the group I look at and I'm like, yes, for sure. With Lockett, it's just the injury that makes me not want to do it. Not want to lean his way. Ridley's been disappointing so far this year. He's got a tough matchup with Washington. That's a really good problem to have. The problem you have right now, picking between those guys, because that's a great list of receivers.
We got I'll touch on this and then we can come back. The next question is, do you think Le'Veon Bell plays today? I don't know how meaningful it is, but I just got an update. You ready for your head to explode?
What's that?
Latavius Murray expected to be the starter.
No way.
Yeah.
What is going on in Baltimore?
Expected to be the lead back. It didn't even say starter. It said lead back, which to me means that they're expecting him to have the volume.
Ugh.
There might be an issue under the radar. I mean, maybe Tyson Williams has something going on that nobody knows, or
there's something with Tyson Williams that is not the way he runs the ball that they don't like. So that could be pass protection. That could be the read option with Lamar that isn't working. I don't know. But it's certainly not his ability to run the ball, because when that guy runs the ball, he looks so much better than what Latavius Murray has looked. What are you doing, Baltimore? I mean, dude, is Le'Veon Bell going to play today? Your guess is as good as ours with what Baltimore is going to do. but he is active. He's going to be active today on the roster, which I think would potentially mean that Devonta Freeman is going to be a healthy scratch, and that means that Le'Veon Bell would be the third back on that team. And yeah, he could go out there and get a handful of carries. They did it with Freeman, Freeman's first week with the team. It's possible, but we're just not expecting much out of Le'Veon really as a whole. But if they're giving Latavius Murray a shot over Tyson Williams, then I don't even know what to think. That makes me think that it is a world where Le'Veon Bell could surprise a little bit with his ability still, and then they will give him some work. Seems like they're looking for any reason to get Tyson off the field.
It's not something we're betting on this week, though, either, regardless. Like,
No,
if Le'Veon Bell ends up
definitely
being a thing, it's not going to be right away, I don't think.
No. Pick 3, Lockett, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Odell. This might sound crazy, but I would run both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen at the same time for sure. And man, this might be where Dub and I differ. I would go Lockett.
I go
over Odell. Right. Yep. So we both would play both of the Chargers receivers. Dubs likes Odell. I think I like Lockett. That doesn't feel good though.
No, and I'm betting on Lockett being capped with that hip, and it might be a minor thing. I mean, so the league, every team handles it different, and there's some teams that really play games with it more than others, but like, you're supposed to acknowledge any hindrance that the player has, right? And then a questionable tag really means that there's any chance that the player doesn't play. It could be 5% chance. So like, he could be pretty good, and then the team's like, well, this is what he's dealing with, just so everybody knows. Like, there's an integrity aspect to it too. And then some of these teams are like, we don't know what's going on with our players because we want to make it harder for the defense to plan against us. And then it's like, you end up with this, this
and Odell did look good last week. Like, he looked good on the field. He was involved from the beginning, and Minnesota's defense is far from a scary matchup. So there's definitely reasons to play him, no doubt. Lockett's going to be much more boom bust for sure. Thoughts on Henderson workload today? Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think we both are kind of in the boat where we believe he's going to be the lead back today, but that it's probably likely that he's going to be less involved than he was so far this year before he got hurt, because Sony Michel finally got his time to get on the field and play. And I imagine also Michel's had a lot more run with the ones than he was getting with Henderson being out in practice. But Henderson's been on limited workload in practice for the last few days. He's active. I don't think they activate him unless they intend to play him. So really the question is, are you starting him yourself? And I am starting him. I have him in the league and I'm starting him.
Yeah, I'm going Henderson over those guys too. I wish that Henderson got a little higher quality touches. I feel like sometimes they just do the show me, like run up the middle kind of stuff with him. But overall, I like him.
Well, it's interesting. It seems like what the Rams have been doing pretty consistently is throwing early and often and trying to get up on scoreboard, and then they're running the ball after that. It's like it's not like it's been like some nice, super nice balance so far. It's like Stafford's slinging the damn rock, and we've got 3 touchdowns, and it's the middle of the second quarter, and then by like that last part of the second quarter, and then come in the second half, they start running the ball a lot more.
Dude, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say they did that with Henderson when he got hurt. He was used for most of that drive, and I was sitting there watching that drive, thinking like, they're sure using him a lot. Like, can we scale back the workload a little bit?
There's a little bit of a love interest there too. Like, I saw a meme, and I was thinking something similar when I was watching the games, because I did see it. But I saw a meme that came out, and it was like, get you someone that looks at you the way Sean McVay looks at Matt Stafford. And like, Sean McVay's on the sideline with like his hands on Stafford's helmet, and he's like staring into his soul with this look of endearment. And it's like, there is like some honeymoon romance thing going on with Stafford and McVay, and I don't know how that plays out the rest of the year, but like, it seems like McVay's very happy to have Stafford on the team.
I think so, yeah. Every time Stafford throws a touchdown, that guy McVay loses his mind on the sidelines.
He does too. So I'm wondering if that's part of it, but that could end up being it could end up being better if they're opening the field, opening up, spreading out the defense, and then
Well,
hopefully Henderson.
that has worked because the passing has been such a threat for defenses, and then they get lit up enough, and it opens up huge holes for the run game. Like Henderson had some really nice lanes to run through. Before he got hurt, he's also a good player. It's just a really nice combination. You just wish Henderson was durable, because if he was durable, he'd be a great running back for fantasy. I mean, he already is good, but he'd be really good if he could stay healthy.
So through 3 weeks, we've seen Van Jefferson, I think it was week 1, and Deshaun Jackson week 3 take on that deep role, the deep ball role.
Yeah.
And they still have Tutu Atwell, who is a total burner out of Louisville, I think, as a rookie.
I think that's right.
And so I've been kind of interested in seeing if one of these guys takes over that deep ball role. But so far, it kind of seems like no one really has, right? Like we're just rotating.
Yeah, right now. I mean, dude, that was one of the. I couldn't believe Deshaun Jackson was out there actually making plays, deep balls, still burning guys. I mean, that's crazy.
That's wild.
Guy's been doing it for how long? It's the inevitable thing for me where I feel like I hate not banking, but betting on stuff like that. But I would just bet that Deshaun Jackson doesn't stay healthy, just because it's all we've known him to do.
Yeah,
he's like a Will Fuller before Will Fuller. I like Van Jefferson. I feel he had 6 targets this past week, which is not a lot, but I think that was the most he's had. And I actually saw a couple pass completions between him and Stafford that were not super deep. That was kind of intriguing to me, because I thought, like, hey, maybe he's not just going to be just that guy that has to make his living off the deep ball, especially if they're going to start getting Jackson out there to do that. Maybe he can get more involved in the intermediate stuff. It's just such a weird thing, because Cooper Kupp is the dude, obviously, and you still have Robert Woods there, who we still think, assuming he's not washed, can at any point emerge and become a thing again. So now you've got 4 of these wide receivers involved. What a mess.
Well, at some point too, like these coaches and players, like Stafford knows, McVay knows that like there's some incentives for Woods too, and it's inevitable. There's going to be some games where they're going to try to get Woods his money. They're going to try to get him paid, and I don't know when that's going to happen. But like, there's just so much going on with that receiving core.
There is. I like stashing one of them. Like just stashing a Jefferson or Deshaun Jackson, and especially like in a deep league, definitely in a deeper league where you're kind of thin at wide receiver, because I think someone might provide some sort of consistency there potentially. Just don't know who it's going to be.
Tutu's probably out at this point. If Deshaun Jackson's out there looking like that, there's no way.
I think so. Standard scoring for my flex. Should I play CEH versus the Eagles or Kareem Hunt versus the Vikings? I know which way I'm going to go, and it's probably not going to be what most people would lean, but I'm playing Kareem Hunt over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, no matter the matchup. I don't care who it is.
I think I am too. The Eagles, I think I say it every week, but like the Eagles' run defense can be very good. I think they're a little inconsistent, but like Eagles' run D is legit, and yeah,
that is certainly the Eagles. Yeah, the Eagles can really stop the run if they want to, and CH had a nice week last week, and that's the problem with him. Like in that offense, he does have that potential every week, and so it feels so bad to put him on your bench, especially with the draft capital he came in with again. Even this year it wasn't as bad, but still, you're taking the guy in, what was he probably going 3rd, 4th round most drafts. You don't want to take a guy like that and put him on your bench in that offense. It just feels so dirty to do that. But if you have to pick one for your flex, I mean, that sounds like you've probably got a pretty good running back group. If one of those guys you have to bench.
Well, Clyde is a guy that's going to give you volume. Because he's the dude, right? But the problem, I mean, I view Clyde as like a very good starting option against a bad defense, and like a very average option against a good run defense. Because they do want him to run the ball. It's not like they've given him a ton of looks passing, out of the backfield. And I mean, they do still need that element of the running threat. I don't think they've committed. Some teams don't. Like the old Saints just totally abandoned traditional running, and that's okay. But the Chiefs haven't seemed to want to do that. They want to continue this threat of the running game, and Clyde's just not that guy. They drafted him to be the receiving guy. They drafted him to be another weapon for Mahomes, but they want him to function more as like a traditional runner and kind of keep the defense guessing. And so against bad defenses, Clyde's great. Against good defenses, I'm pretty far out on Clyde. I think he's an average guy, and depending on your roster, like you probably have some other options that you want to run out there, like a Kareem Hunt.
I agree. I would play Kareem Hunt this week.
And it sucks because you drafted Clyde early.
And he had a good week this past week too, 100 yards. Don't want to do it,
And what I said isn't absolute either, because what the Chiefs offense offers you is an opportunity against good defenses because there's too many weapons on that offense. So like there will be some games that Clyde has against a good defense that are pretty nice fantasy days. It's just not something I'm relying on. And if you're betting, which fantasy is a lot of projections and in betting predictions, but yeah, it's just going to be he's going to have a couple games where he looks really good against a good defense, but for the most part it's like average, very good, and that's what you get out of him.
Oh shit, it's the 1:00 games. They just started.
Oh shit,
I didn't realize it was that late.
All right, well,
I just pulled up my roster and I realized like, hey, half my guys are locked. What's going on here?
Well, all right, it's 1:00. The game's just started. Hopefully we gave you guys some insight, help you get a couple wins this week, get a win this week. Definitely appreciate everyone for stopping by. I'll just say it again. If you do want to catch us when we go live Sunday mornings and Tuesday nights, hit that subscribe button, turn your notifications on, and join us when we jump on. We appreciate all the input, all the feedback, all the comments, all the questions. Really helps our stream go. We really appreciate it. We love putting that kind of thought into it. So thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it. Good luck, everybody, this week.
And hey, bro, I'm playing Kareem Hunt too, Ray. So cheers.